All right, everybody. We are back. It's the Sports Clash. Rich Arleo here with Chris Carey and a special guest for our NBA preview. It's our buddy Tom Policastro. Polly, how are you, bud?
Doing very well. I want to thank you both for having me here tonight. Always a pleasure to talk basketball.
Always, always. You're our expert, as we say, so we'll
Oh
be
man, I
uh,
hate your use of that word, but
in-depth
yes, it's fun to
analysis for each question. Chris already
You know
has,
more than me.
he's got some hard
talk.
questions prepared for you, so.
Yeah.
But that's why we're here tonight. I mean, there's a lot has happened. Chris and I haven't done an episode in a while. I started a new job, and life is life.
Congrats.
Yeah, thank you. But hey, we're back, and lots happened since the last time we talked. I mean, a lot of baseball stuff. We don't need to go in depth on what happened in the World Series, but that fifth inning was out of nightmares for me. But
Right.
congrats to the Dodgers, I suppose. Joe Kelly is the biggest dirtbag I've ever known. I've always hated that guy, and now he's talking trash after pitching 0 innings in the World Series. Anyway, I digress. We're here to talk NBA, and I got a team that's very exciting this year. I know, Polly, you do as well. Chris, rocking the Knicks hat. I mean, I know you're ride or die. So we're
Bandwagon, baby.
so plenty of big storylines coming into the season. It should be a fun one. It's we're what 2 weeks in now, so
Yeah.
we've got some idea of how some of these teams are doing. Obviously, some teams have started off slower than expected. Others have been a bit of a surprise, but we're going to break it down. Start with the Eastern Conference, and I want to talk storylines in the East. And I want to get kind of all your best storylines. What are you most looking forward to seeing develop throughout the season as far as the Eastern Conference goes? And I'll start us off. And for me, the most intriguing thing, and it might be a bit of an obvious one, but can anybody in the East beat the Celtics? Now, that's a big question. The Knicks opened the season in Boston when they got their rings. Knicks had a completely revamped roster, not playing to their capacity just yet, and the Celtics shot the lights out. And it was a rough one, as I talked to many Boston fan friends and family, and did not enjoy that. But I mean, the Celtics are the champs, and they look unbeatable again. I mean, yes, they're beatable. But last year, I mean, on any given night, and I'd like to see, and my thing last year was they were the healthiest team in the NBA in the playoffs last year. Yes, Porzingis was hurt, but Porzingis was a nice piece on a roster that wasn't necessarily reliant on him. Uh, Phenomenal player. I mean, we all know
It's a
Porzingis.
nice to have, not a need to have.
Yeah, nice booze. I mean, and most teams he would be a need to have, but in that on that roster, he wasn't. I'm looking at maybe, three, maybe four teams that have any sort of shot in the East. Obviously, I like to believe that my Knicks have a shot. They have a revamped roster that, builds off of what they had last year, but it's different. And there's question marks. Can they stay healthy? Can some of these guys, play a full season in playoffs under Tibbs? That whole rhetoric there. Um, the Sixers, they have Paul George. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know about that. The Cavs are red hot right now, undefeated to start the year. What can a healthy Cavs team do? And then kind of got the rest, the Pacers, who played them in the Eastern Conference Finals last year. Uh, Not really sure about them. Magic, Heat, a couple maybe surprise teams, but I don't know, boys. Do we think that anybody in the East can topple the Celtics?
Paul, you want to take it away? Go ahead.
Right on, man. God bless you. Um,
But they pay him the big bucks.
um, topple is a strong word. I think there are teams, like you said, on any given night. I think the Knicks, once they're as healthy as they can be, and once Bridges hopefully sorts out whatever hitch he has going on with his jump shot, they
Uh,
have what's that?
His shot's been pretty. The first half against Boston, it was like, oh my God. But
Right.
it's been good since then.
It's a little sketchy, man. But yeah,
Gets
they'll certainly
defensive
have a
right
shot.
away.
I think I think that more than the Cavs being red hot, you guys, if we played back the podcast from last year, you can hear me say the Cavs about 80 times as that sleeper team with the depth and the personnel uh, to win the Eastern Conference. Now, uh, the Celtics have since come out and put that to bed by just proving to, as Rich stated, shoot the lights out. But I think the coaching change in Cleveland has them playing much faster than they were under Bickerstaff, and I think the change of literal pace, both in the locker room and on the court, makes them as viable as anybody. I'm sure we'll discuss some other people falling out of contention, certainly in the East, and also what I think I would say. Um, the Celtics look really good, but they looked really good last year, and the Heat, until Jimmy Butler got hurt, were kind of making a really preposterous, like very typical Miami Heat, like we're just gonna beat you with what we have, uh, with the way that we play. So you can never say never, but I think in a league that always improves. I think the Celtics have taken their game to another level, and it's hard to imagine any team in the Eastern Conference um, making them sweat. I also think the Magic will make a jump for the record, but they won't touch the Celtics. But I think there's a very real chance that again we'll discuss people falling out of contention, but I think the Magic secure home court in the first round and maybe make at least make Paolo a household name, you know.
Damn. Well, we're gonna get to the Magic in a little bit, but yeah, I think the biggest storyline in the East is might be one of my surprises there out there, but yeah, one of the biggest storylines, if not the only storyline at the East, is who's nipping at the heels of the Boston Celtics. I wrote down for my homework here that it was the 76ers' pursuit of a championship. Honestly, the Joel Embiid storylines that are coming out are just, they're headline worthy. They bring in Paul George. They've got enough firepower to compete with the Knicks and anybody else, the Cavs in the Eastern Conference, and with the Celtics as well. On the flip side of that, the Knicks did the same thing, bringing in Karl Anthony Towns. Like you said, the change of coaches in Cleveland, whatever. It's all about the 1B teams, I think, in the East. And particularly for me, the most interesting thing that's going to come out is what happens with the Sixers. Do they take the next step ever, or is this just more of the same, just recycling different people at different times around Joel Embiid? So really, just wondering what the Sixers are doing is really my biggest storyline.
Truth is, I'm not disparaging anybody. Joel Embiid is not my favorite player in the world, but also like he gets more flack than he deserves, but he deserves flack, if that makes sense.
For sure.
Yeah. So my thing is, and I happen to like Paul George. I have an old school Paul George Pacers jersey. But
Let's go.
yes, indeed, let's go. But uh, when you think about the Sixers situation, last year they were a solid team, um, relatively solid depth, and Maxey was certainly taking his game to another level. Um, Embiid, style of play, not always the strongest and not always the cleanest, but he was still battling gosh darn palsy as he was doing it, which is crazy. Um, but their big albatross weighing them down, with all due respect, Long Island native was Tobias Harris, right? And his max deal, and he just wasn't producing. And when I think about Paul George, he still has gas in the tank, but he's a little more fragile than he has been in recent years. And Joel Embiid fits that mold as well. And I think there's a difference between load management and just being not built for
Dude,
uh, the length of the NBA season.
Yes.
All that said, Joel Embiid coming out and saying I'll never play back to backs again is genuinely one of the most not cool. Like I don't have kind words to say about that, and I'm sure
Just
that
don't bring up his family, all right?
right, no, agreed, and that's out of line. But there's a very real chance that they just traded one max contract headache for another.
Agreed.
Uh, I can't
that's
look you in the eye and say that the Sixers got worse. I think Drummond's a great signing. I think Martin's a great signing. If anything, they're a little deeper this year than last year. But if anything, they're going to need that depth more than they have in any year of the gosh darn Joel Embiid era. Uh, I lost no sleep over the Sixers getting better, although I can't look you in the eye and say they got worse. I don't think they got better, and I don't think they get over the hump in any sense
I'm
of the
just saying they're the biggest storyline in the East. There's plenty to talk about there. There's plenty to unpack. The Celtics are the same team. The Knicks add Karl Anthony Towns. The Sixers, what do we got? We don't really know. Is it better? Is it worse? I'm
fair
just
enough.
saying, in terms of shit that we can talk about year long, I think the Sixers are going to take the cake with that.
Yeah, there'll be a follow for sure. Sure. Polly, what's your biggest story if we haven't already?
To be honest, in a very one sentence way, I knew you were going to cover it in depth. I will say that more than any other franchise in the league benefits from the Knicks being good.
Yes.
And I think any shot in the arm to the New York Knicks is a shot in the arm to the NBA. And I think that that's always going to be compelling. Um, as I'm sure we're a little biased in terms of being where we're from, but I can look you in the eye and say I'm not a Knicks fan, and I still think it's super exciting.
Yeah.
Um, Smaller notes, really happy for Lonzo Ball. You can't talk about that all year.
Yeah.
Uh, but super pumped for him being back and playing. I believe he's sitting now, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot of maintenance in gosh darn his season and seasons going forward. But for him to come back and kind of prove to the world, just the grit he has is incredible. And not a positive storyline, but watching the Bucks is pretty compelling for all the wrong reasons. And Drew Holiday looks pretty good in that Celtics jersey, baby.
Damn straight.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't know. I haven't watched. I can't say that I watched a second of the Bucks. I saw what they've done so far, and obviously that's the complete opposite of where they expect to be.
Mhm.
Same with the Sixers. I mean, you look at the East standings right now. It's the Sixers at 1-5 and the Bucks at 1-6 at the bottom. So
Yeah.
it's
Wolf.
surprising. I don't expect that to continue, but both teams have their issues and their cracks, and they're being exposed right out of the gate. Um, and I think, I mean, we can kind of transition here into, um, I guess, what your biggest surprise might be this season. It can be, team, player, or coach, whatever you're thinking. What's going to surprise the NBA fans this year? And I'll kick it to you, Polly, to start us off on this one.
Um, I think again the Bucks in a negative sense, especially with Chris Middleton out for kind of indefinitely.
He's a
Last I read, uh, that's a big deal for that team, and we got to see if they blow it up. How Giannis feels about everything because he's still great, but Giannis doesn't necessarily make other people better, and it's not like an attitude thing, but it's just kind of the nature
how he
of
plays.
kind of his game. He'll need a game manager to take people to the next level. And to be honest, Lillard's not proving to be that guy. And I hate to say that because his numbers are solid and he seems like a really great dude. Like that'd be person I'd be really proud for my son to say like I want to be like Dame or whatever the heck, but like it's just not clicking, and it'll be really kind of compelling to watch that. And also, I said this last year, which makes me feel like a dope, but now the Bulls are healthy, uh, and I still think there's something there. There's got to be something in the Eastern Conference for them to pursue. In fairness, the quickest tangent ever. What we said last year on the podcast, because I watched it back because I wanted to make sure that I wasn't shoving my foot in my mouth, is we said that either the Pacers or the Bulls were going to take a stride, and it
Yeah.
wound up being the Pacers. But I think where we left on, or maybe what I'm telling myself, is like even if the Pacers take a step, they're going to be sellers at the deadline. And they weren't sellers, they were buyers. Anyway, point being, the one where I'm doubling down and may again look like an idiot is there's got to be something with the healthy Bulls team.
Now, are they a because I mean Levine is a guy that he's been in trade rumors pretty much since the second he got in Chicago, it feels like. He's healthy
Right.
and performing early on. When the trade deadline hits, if he's still healthy and they're kind of in, maybe the seventh spot in the East or something like that, do they say, all right, let's see what we could turn Levine into, or do they say, hey, let's make a run here with what we got?
The fact that DeRozan has already moved probably means that they unload. They also paid Giddy, and I don't know what the specifics of that contract is. Um, and I think, you'd rather have Levine than Giddy on a game to game basis, but in terms of a couple years down the line, that might not be the case. So sounds familiar, but they may be sellers again, but I think that they're certainly a fun team to watch as Kobe White continues to make the most of whatever guard position they throw him in.
Yeah.
And Vucevic has just been so consistent. He's great.
Chris, what do you got?
So are we talking East, West, or overall?
Let's stick in the East.
Stick in the East. I'm going to piggyback right off of what Polly said before on when we started this with the Magic. I think Paolo Banchero is really a superstar in this league, or ready to be a superstar in this league, and they just have enough talent on that roster, from guard play to front court play, to really be a factor in the playoff picture, more so than just making the eighth seed. So Polly said something along the lines of securing home court. I mean, you got to be a little bit better than the seventh and eighth seed to be able to do that. And I think that they sneak into, five, six, something like that, in the Eastern Conference, if not even four, and end up being a really, really dangerous team to play. They haven't been together all that much. If they stay healthy, I think this is huge for them this year to take that step forward and see what they have as well, because they do have depth, but maybe not necessarily the cast that they want to end up with around Boncaro. But that guy's just elite. He's awesome. I think he should be, like Polly said, a household name. I mean, former Dukies usually are, and I feel like nobody's talking about this guy enough. The things that he's doing, in terms of playing inside and out and making his teammates better, are things that we just go to show his growth as a player. Because I watched him a lot in college. I watched him a lot in college. I'm guilty of not watching too much NBA, but this man's a talent that I think is going to go ahead and take the next step. And I see other teams falling out of the picture, teams like Atlanta, something like that, where they're just better than them. And I think that the Magic are going to be one of the biggest surprises here, in the playoffs, in the Eastern Conference. So that was kind of what I was going with for the East side. Just looking at their depth, looking at Wagner, guys that just can perform. They do a good job, and I think they finished pretty decent last year, but under their skis, or whatever the hell the phrase is, or not over their set. Yeah, whatever. Anywho, I'm gonna stop right there and just say,
I
let's
know.
go Magic.
It's written in the
Speaking of
stars, as
skis,
they
that
say.
was going downhill, baby.
I completely went off the black diamond right
Yeah.
there. Yeah. I was over my skis. That's the phrase. There we go.
There we go. We found it. Uh, as for my surprise, maybe it's a little bit of a bolder prediction, but uh I think the Pistons can sneak in as a play-in team this year. I
Okay.
like that young core, Cunningham, Duran, Ivy, like taken a little bit of a step. They've played much better this year than they had than they were last year. Right? It's not
That's
saying
not saying much.
no, exactly, but you're kind of seeing these that core take a step. And I know we, kind of shit on Tobias Harris earlier, but I feel like he's a good fit as a veteran on this team.
A rebuilding team, yes.
Yeah,
Yep.
I mean you have Harris and you have Hardaway who are guys who they legitimize a young roster.
Mhm.
And I look at them as just, sneak in as a playing team. I don't, they're not ready to do anything serious, but I mean, how many damn teams do we have in the playing anyway? Why not? They can fit in for sure. So I like them and I like how they're playing so far. And I'm a Cade Cunningham fan. I like watching him play. Same with
For
Duran.
sure.
They're kind of fun to watch now. Much after the last few years, it's been abysmal basketball. So it's nice to see.
Yeah, it's been pretty brutal recently, but hopefully the Pistons are back.
Yeah. Well, you guys know when your team kind of sucks for like 6, 7 years, it's eventually you got guys. You've been building a core.
Unnecessary shots. This is an NBA preview, sir.
So
Unnecessary shots fired. Oh, we both lost the World Series, right? We both didn't win it.
one of us made it. All right. Biggest biggest bust, and we'll transition to that. Chris, who is your biggest bust team in the East?
I'm gonna go with Atlanta. I think I went with Atlanta last year too. I just don't see them improving at all. It's Trey Young and everybody else. DeAndre Hunter's still there. But at the end of the day, I just don't see Atlanta making the moves that they should be making as a big market team to continue to compete and stay relevant in the Eastern Conference. That's why I think teams like the Magic will jump them. Obviously the Heat are always in the playoff picture too. I think Atlanta continues to fall down the standings from where they've been the past couple years. And it's not Trey Young's fault. I think it's really the front office just really not going out and getting anybody to help them out. They need a solid presence down low, and they haven't had that in a long, long time. So I really just see Atlanta slipping from the, tier where, they were getting spit at in Madison Square Garden and stuff in the playoffs to not even making the playoffs, right? Nobody really cares about playing Atlanta anymore. They're just not really that good and haven't improved over the course of the past 2 to 3 years, in my opinion. So for bust, I'm going to go with probably the biggest market that just isn't doing anything to get better in the East.
I'd agree with you on that one. As I watch the Knicks currently losing to the Hawks in the third quarter,
Oh,
but
sorry, I got the champion Celtics on over here. So
great.
Oh, my goodness. I am no comment. Uh,
Quality.
I would agree. I think Jalen Johnson has potential to be a heck of a player, but it doesn't take away from anything that Chris has said. I think they've squandered much of Trey Young's prime, um, and I think they had some pieces there for a little while. And I think the only one left is Capella, who's not who he once was, and certainly not going to do it on his own with Trey. So with the lone caveat of keep an eye on Jalen Johnson, um, Chris's point is spot on. Biggest bust, it's hard to say. Bust is too strong a word. I'm not going to talk your ear off because we just went over it, but I think that uh, I don't think that the Sixers have improved as much as they want or have to really make a play for the goals that they have. And again, he's a controversial player for a reason. I'm not necessarily a fan of his, but at the same time, it's not all on him. Joel Embiid has been there from trust the process to the process is here to oh no, the process is getting away from us. And
the results.
the results, that's good, man. This is why I usually watch the show and I'm not on it because I say it again.
We
No, all
get
right.
we get your live reactions now.
Yeah, right. That's funny. See, I did it again. Uh, my friends are so clever. No, just the fact that they haven't quite done enough. And I know I'll be eating crow if they find a way to make it happen, but it's just hard to see.
Well, I'll be eating crow too because it's the Sixers for me. We've talked all about it at this point. Maxi's a stud, but it's just Embiid, George. That's not really a combo that I see making it through a season and a long playoff run in
Right.
any. And you mentioned, they a little deeper than they were last year. They got rid of Harris, who was an albatross, but I just don't see it. And obviously they have the expectations, but I don't think they meet them in any way. So let's move over to the West and let's do what we just did with the East and start with our best storyline out of the West. Gentlemen, I'll leave it up to you. Who wants to kick us off here?
Chris, you got it this time, man.
All right, sounds good. I mean, in terms of storylines, how can you not talk about LeBron and Bronny and the Lakers, right? I mean, that was the storyline from opening day, right? I mean, it's probably not going to be a thing season long, but in terms of, the West Coast or the Western Conference, that was the biggest thing here going in. I think really what you're going to end up seeing though, in terms of a storyline is how good can Oklahoma City be? Right? I think Oklahoma City really is just the bobber at the top of the hook right now, and they can just go all the way, or they might fall flat and just not have enough experience to get there. So kind of threw out two storylines there because one's a little bit, made for TV drama. The other is actually basketball. So I guess the main storyline that I'll be watching out for is Shea Gilgeous that guy and the Oklahoma City Thunder and how good they can actually be. Because now I think everybody's on notice that they're pretty damn good.
Who is it?
Hey, gorgeous. SGA from now on, season
Yeah,
long.
yeah.
Good call. Good call.
My tongue's too big for my mouth. Good.
Yeah, I mean,
Good.
kind of jokingly, but I mean, I think just it'll develop pretty quickly. So I don't know if it's a season-long storyline, but to see just how not fit for the NBA Bronny probably really is. Um, it feels forced as many things with LeBron lately do. Um, I it's intriguing. It's got people talking, and of course, for obvious reasons. I mean, it's LeBron, first of all. It's his son. You had the Griffey, they were posing with the Griffies and doing all this whole thing. And I think people are already over it, and it's one of those things that I think might fade, but to see kind of him uh not that I want to see the kid fail because is what it is, but I think it's going to be proven pretty quickly that he's not really built for this, at least not yet. Um, but on another token, I'm watching and interested in seeing Wemby in his second year and what the Spurs can do. They just had a little bit of a blow with Sochan getting hurt. Not sure. I think he's having surgery in his hand. And not sure how long he's going to be out. He was off to a nice start, but to see them maybe make a little bit of a jump, but also obviously seeing Wemby after great rookie year. What's his encore? I'm interested in seeing that. Bali.
Definitely.
Also, while we're on the subject, Greg Popovich also away from the team with what's being called a serious health issue. So you just got to send your best thoughts to him beyond basketball, just while we're filming this. I agree with everybody's points here. The truth is, Wemby was my top storyline. Seeing that next step, or at least next season, and how we grew. Because honestly, like basketball aside, gosh darn, you look at photos, the guy put on a ton of muscle. Like he looks ready to go. Um, Also, what's interesting about the Thunder, in my opinion, is that they're doing so much defensively. I haven't watched a ton of NBA games just yet, because I don't know enough to to be on the air and speaking with you guys, but I've been watching baseball just like all you. Even I haven't jumped into basketball just yet, but they're one of two teams that I've truly seen committing to the defensive end. And that's not to say that no other team is playing defense, but there are two teams that I've seen this season that you can notice they're playing defense, and the Thunder are one of them. Um, the third, gosh darn storyline that I threw out, uh,
Watch with the expletives, please.
yeah, indeed. Uh,
Holy
I'm
shit.
biased. I'm biased for being invested in this, but I do think this is a league-wide interest. Uh, is Klay Thompson's opportunity to kind of play without the expectations of being Golden State Klay. Um, I do think I want to be careful with my words here because there's a lot of stuff as fans that we pretend to know, but that we really don't. But I think that the way Klay exited Golden State is very much on Golden State ownership and management. But I do think what the path that was taken to get them there was very much Klay not paying attention to his body and maybe a changing role on a team that still to him, I'm sure felt like it was only yesterday. You know what I'm saying? It's something about
Yeah.
getting caught up in being nostalgia and the Klay of old. And I think that while he wasn't treated very well by Golden State on the way out, um, I think playing with Dallas is a real opportunity to him for him to not only find a bit of a renaissance, but also just give him kind of a clean slate of this is what I mean to this team rather than trying to recreate what he has meant to the Golden State Warriors. So genuinely between the two of you, you led me into that third one quite easily because genuinely I wrote down Wemby, Klay Thompson, and the Thunder. I wrote Rolling Thunder because it's who I am. Uh, but, but that's those are definitely my storylines in the West.
Yeah, it. I hope Clay kind of finds it because it feels like he was almost ushered out too quickly.
Right.
Obviously, he wasn't performing last year to his expectations, but like you said, it feels like yesterday. Like it's not like he's 40. I think he can still shoot. Um, I don't know how he's done so far with Dal. It looks like he's putting up about 15 points a game. I don't
It's
know how
been solid.
he's been.
Yeah.
And that's just, that's a team that was in the finals last year, and you add Klay Thompson, and that can only help you. He's not going to hurt the Mavs in any way. So
Right.
it's a question of what you get from him, what kind of Klay Thompson.
But the point is with the Mavericks, what I tend to believe won't happen is he won't try to overplay,
Right,
which is 100% what he was doing in Golden State.
right. Agreed. All right. Staying in the West, we talked storylines. Biggest surprise in the West. Polly, give it to
I think Chris wanted to go first, so we're gonna go ahead and let Chris go.
me. You want to go first? When did he express that? I don't have that recorded.
Well, just I'm just trying to make it flow, brother. That's it.
Chris, who's your biggest surprise?
My biggest surprise is going to be the rebuilding of the Golden State Warriors. Just to kind of jump right off of the Clay Thompson conversation we just had.
Such a
I
natural
think
transition.
yes, no, it was beautiful. They don't pay me enough. That's it.
No,
But
but
I just think right now, if you look at Golden State, I mean, they're currently up on Boston right now. They've kind of rebuilt and revamped very quickly in terms of their roster and being able to compete this year. A few people thought maybe it would be a year or two before they were back to the level that they're at. But I mean, you bring in a guy who can shoot like Buddy Hield and Clay, who, that's kind of what they're thinking right now. The guy's shooting lights out. Buddy Hield is a legend from three. Yeah, Clay's in a better position, 100%. Because Golden State's the type of team that can take little role players and make them into Clay Thompsons. Clay Thompson didn't need to be a role player. He can be a star in this league if he has anything left. However, Buddy Hield steps right in as the three-point shooting machine over there. They've got Pajimski, whatever his name is, and Trace Jackson Davis is, a legendary Hoosier. So they've got a guy down low, a big man as well. So I think ultimately, Golden State behind Steph and Steve Kerr still, you're going to see more of the same. Maybe not to the elite level, like where they competed with LeBron in in their prime in the finals year after year. But I do think that this is not a team that's going to be left out of the playoff picture. And I think it's a team
Earlier.
that could definitely shoot their way into, a deep playoff run as well. So yeah, I think that's going to be one of my biggest surprises is I think a lot of people thought that this team might not be as good as it was. And I think they can be just as good, if not maybe one step below, but they're still in the picture and they're still relevant in the West. So that's kind of my biggest surprise is Rome's not falling over there in the O.co arena. Is that right? Oracle? Is that still a thing?
They change it every
Who
year.
sponsors that shit? I have no idea.
I think it's still the
Some
Oracle.
San Francisco tech company somewhere.
Yeah. I
Maybe
like
it's SoFi by now. I
I
don't
like
know.
I like that take. No wonder you wanted to go first. Polly, what do you got?
Um, First and foremost, I want to give Chris a lot of credit for swinging for the fences with these challenging names all night. He's where other people
His
would take
name.
the easy way out, Chris Carey and all the mystery of that name.
Onward into the fray.
Said, let me take that on. My biggest surprise is probably the Nuggets, and how much kind of over the course of 2 years, their loss of, Bruce Brown and Kentavious Caldwell Pope has been felt. I still consider, in his prime and beyond, Russell Westbrook one of my favorite players, and I'll stand by that. And he also seems like really a great dude. But for better or worse, whether he tried or not, I don't know. He never cultivated a three-point shot. And the Nuggets are feeling that. The floor has shrunk, and it is not leaving Jamal Murray or Nikola Jokic, respectively, a lot of room to work. They're having a hard time putting the ball in the basket. Um, Aaron Gordon being hurt for a number of weeks is going to reverberate that impact even more. So here's the thing. I do think some things in the Mile High City are very much aflame, but what I will say more than any other team in that situation, I think they are two shooters away, like a Bogdanovich or something, from being right back to um, the intimidating presence that they've been in the Western Conference for years. Because Jokic and frankly Murray, but more so Jokic, are too good to let a true downfall happen. But as far as I'm concerned, those alarm bells are going off now, and they should be. But I also think that all they have to do is add some shooters, and they don't even need to be stars. Like to be honest, like give me a Steve Novak. That one's for you, Rich. You know what I'm saying? Like, and yeah, exactly that. And the Nuggets are right back in the conversation. But if things stay the way they are, they're very much not. And I stand by that, even with acknowledging how great uh, Jokic is. And Michael Porter Jr. is very mediocre.
Yeah, been kind of waiting. You've been kind of waiting to see.
Shots fired.
I really don't. He's not the third star there, man. Like
He's up a little bit there.
he deserves health, wealth, and happiness, but like they shouldn't be selling his jersey, brother.
I
Nice.
yeah, you've been waiting now a couple of years for it, and it doesn't appear to be happening. So I'm with you there. For me, the Knicks just played them, so maybe it's biased, but Houston Rockets, uh,
Mm.
they're legit. Jalen Green, wow, he's blossoming into a star. I mean,
Jamal Shed.
who?
Okay, right on.
I apologize.
Shepherd,
He was
yes.
on Houston, the college team.
Um, anyway, Green's already averaging about 23 points a game. You have a big man who sometimes can't be stopped inside in Sengun.
Yeah.
He's impressive. Van Vliet didn't have a good year last year, but if he can bounce back, they have enough to be a playoff team, maybe win a playoff series, I think.
Yeah.
Uh, and they're on like on the West, they're one of the more fun, intriguing teams, I think, to watch. So they could surprise some people. Obviously, I talked about Wemby and the Spurs being that intriguing story, and they could be a surprise team out of the West as well.
One more, I do have to, if you don't mind, I'm going to add one more.
I
Uh,
might, but I'll let it slide.
I mentioned that there are two teams that seem to be going out of their way to play defense, and that
Yeah.
second team is the Los Angeles Clippers. Um, that will not translate to anything more than a play in my opinion. But the defense that that team is playing as a unit, and frankly, I have not been his most ardent supporter throughout the latter couple of years of his career. James Harden is putting up, I think, like 21, 22 points a game, like 8 rebounds a game, and 9 assists per game. Um, he's absolutely. I mean, there's not a lot of other people to take shots on that team, to be fair. So I'm not going to make him Clark Kent just yet. But at the same time, I don't think anyone has silenced more critics than the Los Angeles Clippers. I don't think James Harden saying "I am the system" this late in his career was well received. I think uh, Kawhi is Kawhi, and I'm not going to judge him his health. And I'm also not going to judge him that he's kind of a deadpan dude. But when he was asked, yeah, exactly. But when he was asked in training camp if anybody caught his eye, he straight up said no. And that's not good at all. And I will judge Kawhi for that and that only. Uh,
No.
yeah, exactly. Bizarre. That was like a Chris Carey one word answer, you know?
Know
uh,
it. Get the point across.
so if there's been one surprise to me, it's been how fun that team is to watch. And will it translate to much? Probably not. Although I think it'll be pretty interesting to see if the Sixers make it any further between you and me. But okay.
Norman Powell is averaging 25 points a game.
Yeah.
Norm.
That's kind of crazy, but I mean, he's playing 30 plus minutes a game, shooting 45% from three. So I don't think that's not gonna keep up, but like you said, and I haven't watched them, so I can't attest to it. But if they're playing strong defense, they could certainly be a team to watch.
Yeah, just fun. I mean, they're not accomplishing anything. I'm not trying to give a take that's too hot. But and good for James Harden. What can I say?
Just a,
Yeah,
Honestly.
just a tepid take.
yeah, a lukewarm team. All right, on to I guess we'll call it the biggest busts in the conference. Who wants to go first on this one? Polly, you want to kick it off?
Rich, why don't you do it, man?
I've been like kind of stewing over this one. I don't really know. Like, are the Lakers really a bust candidate? Uh,
Mm.
What are their expectations? I'm not gonna say the Nuggets. I just maybe, but I really don't know out of this West because of the teams that have expectations, the Thunder and Suns are not going to bust. The Warriors, the Mavs, they're not going to. Well, I mean, the Warriors are a bit of a surprise. They're not going to bust. I talked about the Rockets being a favorite. Uh,
Hmm.
I mean, maybe just because the expectations with Edwards are so high now after his playoff run last year, you could look at the Timberwolves as a potential candidate. I don't know if I even agree with myself there. Am I saying?
Right.
But and I love Julius and Dante on that team, so
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
I don't know. It's tough to say. I don't have like a team. I don't think any of the top teams in the West who are established are gonna just surprisingly struggle here.
No
Uh,
doubt.
so I mean, for me, if you want to say, I don't see Anthony Davis is playing out of his mind right now, and he obviously has that in him. And the
Right.
Lakers can be a force, but I like the Suns keep sticking out to me, but I think the Suns actually like finally kind of maybe put it together a little bit more this year.
Right.
They have. So I can't even slap them with a bust label. I guess I'll put it on the T-Wolves just
Mhm.
because the expectations are so high. And I think that the Thunder and Suns outperform them. I don't have the Wolves in the West Finals this year. So
Sure.
for them, that's a bust. So that's where I'll stick. So sorry, Minnie.
Um, I would agree that the Suns looking healthy and having a true point guard in Tyus Jones definitely has their trajectory going in the right direction. And also, you really can't sleep on the way Devin Booker played on the Olympic team in terms of being an unsung defender. He was definitely um, one of the more consistent yet not heralded performers on that squad. And the idea that he can pair that experience with the talent that he definitely has, I think can only bode well for the Suns. So uh, I guess that doesn't say much about. I guess I'm just agreeing that they're in no way a bust. The team I wrote down is the Grizzlies. Just because you think about all the hype that once surrounded that team with Ja, Desmond Bain, and Jaren Jackson, who did he ever win Defensive Player of the Year, or he was just in the conversation? Forgive my ignorance on that.
I don't think he won. I could be wrong.
Yeah. I don't think he did either, but again, I could be wrong. Um, for a while, they were very much the new kids on the block in all the best ways possible, uh, in terms of their rate of play and the excitement of Ja. But then you think now, after Ja missed time for various reasons, which I'm not going to comment on, and some was legitimate injury. You have teams that have kind of caught wind of what works, and you have teams like the Mavs that just have dynamic point guards and big old dudes that'll run and catch lobs and shooters on the side. The Cavs are very much playing that same way. And I know they're not good. I know they're not a good team, but the Hawks play the same way. The Pacers are a perfect example of Rick Carlisle throwing out everything that he's ever done previously and saying, let's just let these guys run and have the most dynamic offense in the league. So I'm going to go ahead and underline the Grizzlies, perhaps unfairly, only because I feel like whatever window they have had um, was squandered. And you can interpret that however you will. I'm not going to comment that because the internet is forever. But I think they squandered that window. It reminds me, and I'm done after this. I'm not the brightest football guy, so this might not be the best analogy, but like I still remember like the one year where like the Wildcat was like, "Whoa, what is that?" You know what I'm saying? And then you came
Yeah.
back next year and it was completely ineffective. You know what I'm saying? Like I feel like
Yep.
I feel pretty strongly that uh the Sixers, I mean, forgive me, the Grizzlies were like that one wildcat team, and then you came back the next season, and the NBA just caught up to them. And now it's hard to envision that window being open again. And that doesn't mean that Ja is washed. It doesn't mean anything negative, but it just means that that window's not there.
That's fair. I kind of like the Grizzlies are to me are a team that's a fun watch. But I don't have the expectations. I like John Morant's a walking highlight reel, and I also like Desmond Bain a lot.
Yeah.
He can't seem to stay on the court. He's hurt again, so it's like,
I heard you love Zach Edey too.
yeah, I do. I may, I might have been wrong about Zachy. I might have been wrong.
Uh, so the Memphis was mine too.
Oh,
But I had as a 1B, and this team, it wasn't in contention last year, but I'm gonna call them a bust because I think they have the greatest player of all time sitting on their roster right now, and that's the Spurs. I think we're gonna get year two of Wemby's career, and it's gonna be pretty awful. They bring in Chris Paul as a point guard. I don't know why. He's however old. Why not give it to somebody young to run it, to grow with him, whatever? I look down the names of their roster and I can't pronounce half of them, Polly. So, at the end of the day, you lose Sochan. I think Castle from UConn is an excellent ad. But the whole Chris Paul capstone on it just doesn't make any sense to me. And I feel like they might move the needle like a tick. But they're just going to waste another year of Wembanyama's career. And for that, I think that's a bust. I think you have the best player, hands down, in the world right now in Wemby. And I think the fact that there's literally nobody around him that makes him better, um, you know, save for Chris Paul, is it's kind of tough. So again, Memphis was my bust, obviously, because of all the things that Polly said. But I don't think that there's any step forward in San Antonio. And they're a weird franchise where when they're ready to move forward, they'll sign a bunch of international guys. Who knows what they'll do? Whatever. They'll just all of a sudden be relevant. So, I think this year they're just going to be bottom feeders yet again. And it's just going to be kind of tough to watch Wembanyama not really get the opportunity to win.
It, it,
So for that, I call him a bust.
I feel you on that. It's tough to call it a waste because it's tough to revamp your roster in 1 year to suddenly become contenders in a sense. And I think that there's a lot that Wembanyama can learn from Chris Paul. So again, I get what you're saying, and I appreciate your underlining that this was like your 1B. But I don't think there was a scenario where, it's not like, oh, they got Chris Paul instead of somebody else, and therefore they won't contend for a title.
Right. I hear you. I just, I want to see that guy play more basketball.
Yeah. Oh,
I
certainly.
want to see him play more basketball. I want to see him play more winning basketball. I want to see him in prime time more.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, it's just we're not going to see that until the Spurs take that next step. And obviously Popovich is ill or whatever. Wish him the best, but the season's not going to go too well if he's not there as well.
yeah.
Sure.
Fair. All right, let's get to the nitty-gritty here. Eastern Conference Finals. Who's got it? Let me
I
hear.
got it. You guys gassed them up as the non-bust. I'm going Phoenix Suns on the West. We're going West, right?
I said East, but yeah,
That's not what he
You
said.
said East?
Huh?
Son of a bee sting. Well, I jumped right in there because you guys stole my pick right there.
Let's do this. Conference final matchups, East and
Okay.
West.
All
All
right.
right. Easily, here we go. Boston, Phoenix, right? Boston and Phoenix, the depth of the rosters on both sides are fantastic.
Conference,
Oh, man, you're terrible.
What?
conference finals first. Eastern Conference Finals, Western Conference Finals. And then, and
I
then
don't understand.
Oh man, that was good.
who you got?
Wait, Boston wins the East, and I have Phoenix winning the West.
I want to know the conference final matchups and then the finals match.
Oh, I don't have that. I have no idea who Boston's going to play.
All
Awesome.
right, fair
So
enough.
insert Knicks here, right?
So Boston Phoenix. Who's
I'm going with Boston to be in the finals here. If you want me to drill it down, I'm going to go Boston and New York, and then Phoenix and Dallas. All right. Now that I understand the assignment, there we go. Right. I think Luka's on his way to being possibly an MVP this year. However, the Suns may put it together. And go ahead and just be a more talented roster there. I think Tyus Jones at the point guard, exactly like Polly mentioned, is a pure point guard. I mean, the former Duke, he's fantastic. They also have Kevin Durant, who just tends to be on championship rosters,
Mhm.
right? Devin Booker was incredible in the Olympics. However, on the flip side, I've got Boston coming out of the East, and you've got the former MVP. You've got Kristaps Porzingis when he decides to show up to work. You've got two first team all defensive players in the front court. Plus, you've got my man Peyton Pritchard, who Rich loves as well. I think they just have too many guys and just a roster filled with talent. So my matchup for the conference finals was Boston and Phoenix, with Boston ultimately taking the title. So I just sprinted past the finish line. My fault.
Perfectly said.
Right on, man. I would say I fought a lot of impulses not to say Cavs Celtics because I really am that guy. I don't know what to tell you. That roster on paper should really be doing it. They really should. But I did write down Boston, New York. Um, but I do have Boston winning with all respect. Um, I think that the Dallas Mavericks have done enough to keep the rest of the Western Conference at bay. I wrote down OKC, Mavs OKC, and I as much as I'm biased, but I really do think they did enough to keep the rest of the West away. And I think Lively takes some next steps, et cetera, et cetera. Go Mavs. But I don't think any team has done enough to compete with the Celtics.
Probably true. In the West, I got the Thunder and the Suns. In
But
the East, I got the Knicks and the Celtics. I'm going chalk pretty much. But look, I'm being a homer here. Thunder Knicks in the finals. And I think I get another finals loss on my resume, and the Thunder take it. I just OKC is really, really good. I look, it's hard to judge the Knicks right now because I don't know if what I'm watching right now is what I'm going to be watching in
no, there's no chance. They got to
March.
get healthy. They got to get deeper.
Yeah.
It's gonna be
You're gonna
better.
get Mitch, right?
They'll get Mitch back, like probably Precious is coming back. I know there's rumors floating around, but like they have enough right now, I think, to do it. It's just there's a lot of meshing to do. Um, there was that time last year when Randall was healthy, they got Anunoby and he was healthy, and they looked unbeatable, and I wanted to see that again. And then the cat trade happened, and it was kind of a shock to the system. Um,
Yeah.
and I like it. I texted this to you the other night, probably like I think I like Cat more than I expected to like him because
Yeah.
he gets the soft label a lot, and he doesn't play soft.
Right.
So watching OG right now too. I mean that their top five, six is really impressive. But like you said, it's that depth that's gonna how they flush it out and what the depth's gonna be. But
Right.
health, it's gonna come down to health like it did last year. I I'm not wishing injury on the Celtics, but I hope
You might
somebody gets
be.
hurt on the Celtics. I don't want I wanted them because like I said last year, yes, they were the best team in the NBA. They still are. Um, but they had a paved road to the finals,
Sure.
and that is what it is. They got it done. You can't take it away from them. But
Hmm.
I don't know. We'll see. But that's my prediction. Um, let's do two more,
Okay.
and let's hit Rookie of the Year and MVP. Chris, Rookie of the Year. For them to be eligible for this, they have to be a rookie. And then MVP,
Whoa.
most valuable player. So I'm just laying it out for you.
Just laying it out for me.
So we don't
All right.
see.
Well, two of the rookies that I loved on the Suns, just to keep going on them, were Ryan Dunn and Oso Ighodaro. I don't know that either of them get enough playing time to qualify for Rookie of the Year or to put up the stats for Rookie of the Year. I think it's really a two-horse race at this point, from what I see, between Edie and Alexander Sarr on Washington. I think Sarr gets the minutes. Right now, he's averaging almost a double double. He's like 10 and 8 right now, and I think he's just going to take everybody by surprise. Nobody, I think, really thought these foreigner players from the draft would play as much, but Sar's plugged right into the Wizards lineup. He's getting minutes, I think 26 to 27 per night. And I think that's going to give him the opportunity to put up enough numbers to qualify for Rookie of the Year. Now, that being said, I think that Zach Edey does get hurt at some point. And that's one of the big things that I think happens here. But I'm going to go with, I think, was it the number 2 overall pick? Alexandre Sarr from
Two or
France,
three, yeah.
right? Yeah, usually when you get those people from overseas picked early, you don't necessarily see the best production from him right away, but he's out there on the court, looks comfortable, getting
Yeah.
enough minutes, and I think it's going to end up with the stats to be able to take home the Rookie of the Year. So I'm going with Sar.
I'm going with Edie basically because he's the guy I know the most about, and he's done it so far. And Chris, I shit on Edie mostly because anytime I bet on them, it was just not, it didn't work out. And I
Yeah,
watched Zach Edie, and I was like, he should be doing so much more than he was. But I think it was
he
more so
does so much.
I think it was more so anytime I bet Purdue, it was just Edie doing everything and nobody else really doing anything. And I think his frame is actually right now built more for the NBA than a lot of rookies who are that tall, that big. He's not lanky at 7'4".
Yeah.
He can bang inside. So I like Zach Edey, Chris. You were right.
Wow.
That
Wow.
hurts. That hurts.
Oh, I love it.
Well,
I
he's no
love it.
longer a chicken nugget on Purdue.
There you go. There you go. I think I told you to take Purdue in your bracket 2 years ago, and that's where this all started. Weren't they out week one? Yeah, or game one?
Yeah, game one. Yeah, I was out. I
Yeah,
think
it's
St.
15
Pat's.
versus 2.
Yeah,
Pretty brutal.
uh, Molly.
I think on paper right now it is Zach Edey. I was just looking at numbers. I can't confess that I've seen him play yet, but on that
Love
Grizzlies team, there's a gentleman, Jalen Wells, I believe, who's already contributing pretty strongly to that lineup. I think to the tune of maybe like even 15 points a game, but I could be totally full of it on that.
10 points.
Bottom line, I was looking up some numbers, and he was really contributing quite a bit. Granted, in kind of a role player role, but that's the thing about the NBA. Everybody's got to fill their role. Uh, the only other person I would keep an eye on is Stephon Castle out of San Antonio. To Chris's point earlier, there's Chris Paul is not young, and there's not a scenario where he's going to take the bulk of minutes and even the bulk of games as the season progresses. And Stephon Castle is a playmaker. I'm not saying that that's translated to the NBA just yet, but he is a playmaker and he is a defender, and he's playing with, to Chris's point, arguably somebody who's going to be the best player on the planet sooner than we think. So I think just from certainly his own hard work, don't get me wrong, but certainly just the circumstance of being with an elder statesman, being behind an elder statesman at his position, and being around a transcendental talent to pass to.
Good
Uh,
point.
Stephen Castle is definitely someone. I don't want to make it sound like he's not earning it, but like his circumstances are pretty dope.
Yeah, yeah, they are. and then have the point guard experience of don't mess with the Sochan either. He's going to be handling the ball a lot, and you're right. It's really the guys that are around him as well. One of the guys that I'm sad that probably won't be in the running for it is Donovan Clingan, same team at UConn with Castle, big man in Portland, but it seems like he's stuck in a rotation with Aiden and Robert Williams. But another young guy to keep an eye on in the center is Donovan Clingan. He was, I think, one of the most outstanding players in one of their tournament runs over the course of the past 2 years as well. Big man from UConn, fantastic. But you're right. I think Castle now has one of the best situations, honestly, for a rookie out there.
All right. That was top 10 rookies. All right. So moving on we're gonna finish it off with our MVP predictions. And I'm gonna kick it off by running it back with my prediction from last year, who I still think was the MVP, Luca. I mean, yeah, I think he's the best player in the NBA. He does everything. He's the best scorer. Just what he can do on a night in, night out basis. Nobody else. I mean, maybe there's two or three people who can even compare right now. And he's getting better. He's gotten better every year. He seems to be improving every single year. And to me, I think this is the year finally that he gets his MVP that I think he's already deserved. And I'll leave it at that. Gentlemen, who wants to keep it
I
going?
agree. I have Luca too. I didn't even write down anybody else. I feel like the MVP, not too many people go back to back, not named Nikola Jokic. Unfortunately, he's in a situation like Polly mentioned before, where the Nuggets are down a few pieces. He might be the do-it-all player, but again, I think it's Luca's time. He's got two guys now that he can drive and kick to. He can create his own space, and while he seems to keep getting chubbier, he seems to keep getting better. I enjoy watching him, man.
Like the three of us, maybe.
Yeah, he might be up there as one of my favorite players in the NBA. So I agree. I go Luca. You want to make it unanimous, Polly, or you got a different
Man,
pick?
no, I certainly think it's unanimous. I want to credit Kyrie for kind of carrying the early couple games of the season while Luca gets going, but that's neither here nor there. The only other guy I did write down, because I wrote down Luca, but I'm the Mavs fan, etc.
Okay.
I think it would be kind of cool, dare I say, uh, Steph takes this revamped roster pretty deep and kind of puts a bow on winning another MVP. I think that's possible. And then I threw Jason Tatum in just because, again, I think the uh, Olympic experience was positive for him too. I think there's far too much made out of his playing time. They're the best basketball players in the world. They can't put 8 people on the court, you know.
Yeah.
But that said, all due respect to him, gosh darn, he's a distant third. But I definitely wrote down Luca. But when I tell you that even as a Mavs fan, I could see a really cool storyline of Steph taking these young bucks to
I like
not the promised land necessarily, but enough,
you can do it.
enough to be that guy again. I can really see it. I can really see it.
I like that. That would be fun. Gentlemen, it was a pleasure. I thank you both. That was fun. I mean, it's gonna be a fun season. Obviously, hey, Knicks Mavs maybe that would be fun. I thought we might have had it last year at one point.
Yeah, no doubt. Man, that would be fun.
I don't know. The Knicks are about to lose to the Hawks right now, and then they're not finishing games. Again, it's too early. It is what it is, but we'll see. Yeah, that was fun. That's the NBA season preview. Polly, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, of course. My pleasure. Thank you for having me, guys. Always love the sports class. You guys are
Yeah,
always
man.
in my book.
You're the man. Thank you, Polly. Chris, love you, bud. Thanks everybody for watching. Good night.